Niccolo Paganini. A Life in Music and Legend. Niccolo Paganini, 1782–1840, is widely regarded as one of the most extraordinary violin virtuosos in history, and his contributions to classical music left a profound and lasting impact on both the violin and the broader world of music. His combination of technical brilliance, innovative composition, and a larger-than-life personal myth transformed him from a musical prodigy into a legendary figure whose name is synonymous with virtuosity and musical innovation. Early life and training. Niccolo Paganini was born in Genoa, Italy, on October 27, 1782, into a modest family. His father, Antonio Paganini, was a poor merchant, while his mother, Teresa Bacciardo, was supportive but unremarkable in terms of musical background. From an early age, Paganini exhibited remarkable talent on the violin, prompting his father to invest heavily in his education, hoping to see his son become a professional musician who could bring wealth and recognition to the family. Paganini's early lessons were under the guidance of local violinists such as Giambattista Baumann and Francesco Ghetti, and his prodigious abilities soon surpassed the instruction available to him in Genoa. His technical brilliance and musical maturity led him to study with famous violinists of the time, including the renowned teacher Alessandro Rolla. Paganini's extraordinary talent became evident when he began composing his own pieces at an early age, showcasing both his deep understanding of the violin and his natural flair for creating challenging, virtuosic music. Musical career and innovations. By the time Paganini was in his late teens, he was already touring throughout Italy, earning a reputation as a performer who could play the violin with an unprecedented technical facility. His performances were filled with daring feats of virtuosity, and he began to develop a reputation for playing with a unique combination of sensitivity and power. Paganini's technical innovations on the violin were revolutionary. He was known for his ability to play incredibly fast scales, double stops, and complex arpeggios with ease. One of his key contributions was the development of the technique of left-hand pizzicato, where he plucked the strings with his left hand while playing the violin, a feat that had never been heard before. He also perfected the use of harmonics, creating ethereal, otherworldly sounds that became a signature of his performances. Paganini's compositions were similarly groundbreaking. His set of 24 caprices for solo violin, composed between 1805 and 1817, are still considered the pinnacle of violin technique and expression. These pieces, with their combination of technical difficulty and musicality, are among the most challenging works in the violin repertoire. The caprices explore a wide range of violin techniques, from rapid runs and extreme bowing techniques to expressive double stops and harmonics, cementing Paganini's reputation as a violin virtuoso. Beyond the caprices, Paganini composed a number of violin concertos, chamber works, and even some piano music, though it is the violin concertos, particularly the Violin Concerto No. 1 in D major, that are best remembered. The concerto is a prime example of Paganini's innovation, blending his virtuosity with a sense of lyricism and drama that was ahead of its time. The myth of Paganini. The mystique surrounding Paganini's career was largely a product of his extraordinary abilities and his enigmatic personal life. His performances were often accompanied by an aura of supernatural power. People marveled at his ability to play the violin with an almost otherworldly skill, and rumors began to circulate that Paganini had made a pact with the devil in exchange for his musical gifts. His gaunt appearance, pale complexion, and long, flowing hair only contributed to this image of him as a demonic figure, further fueling the myth. Paganini himself did little to dispel the rumors, and in fact, seemed to embrace his portrayal as a dark, mysterious figure. He often performed in black, maintaining an air of theatricality that matched the legends being spread about him. In some instances, he would play with such intensity that the audience seemed to feel as if he was not simply performing music, but channeling some otherworldly force through his violin. This sense of drama made him an even more compelling figure, and his performances were regarded as nothing short of theatrical events. This legendary persona was also a result of his unusually virtuoso technique, which was unlike anything the world had ever seen. His ability to make the violin sing with unparalleled emotion, combined with his ability to execute impossible technical feats, caused audiences to believe that he was capable of transcending human limitations. His concerts, often accompanied by rumors of his occult powers, attracted immense crowds, and Paganini became one of the most celebrated and sought-after performers of his time. Paganini's personal life and health. The life of Niccolo Paganini was as dramatic and mysterious as his public persona. He was known for his solitary nature and an enigmatic approach to his personal life. Although it was widely believed that he had numerous romantic entanglements, Paganini was never openly involved in any serious relationships, and his private life remains shrouded in mystery. Paganini's health was a subject of much speculation, with some believing that his physical appearance and frail constitution were a result of some kind of debilitating illness. It is widely believed that he suffered from Marfan syndrome, a genetic disorder that affects the connective tissue and can cause long limbs, joint dislocations, and heart problems. This may have explained his unique, elongated fingers and his strikingly gaunt figure, as well as the chronic pain he sometimes experienced. Despite his illness, Paganini was able to maintain his unparalleled skill on the violin, though he often struggled with health problems that affected his ability to perform. In terms of personal finances, Paganini was a complex figure. Despite his fame and widespread success, he faced financial difficulties throughout his life. He was often criticized for his inability to manage his wealth wisely, and it is said that he was constantly in need of money. Paganini's reputation for being somewhat mercenary in his dealings with patrons and concert organizers also contributed to his somewhat negative image in the eyes of some of his contemporaries. Paganini and the evolution of the violin. Niccolo Paganini's influence on the violin and violin playing cannot be overstated. His contributions to violin technique and his innovative approach to composition elevated the instrument to new heights. Paganini's performances were a spectacle of sound and technique, and his compositions pushed the boundaries of what was possible on the violin. Many of the greatest violinists of the 19th and 20th centuries, including Jascha Heifetz, Fritz Kreisler, and David Oistrakh, acknowledged Paganini as a key influence in their development as performers. In addition to his groundbreaking work as a performer and composer, Paganini played an important role in shaping the evolution of the violin itself. His performances popularized the use of certain techniques that were previously unknown, such as the use of the spiccato bowing technique and left-hand pizzicato. His performances were also marked by his use of a special violin, a Guarneri del Gesù, which became one of the most famous violins in history. Paganini's ability to coax the instrument into producing a vast range of sounds, from ethereal harmonics to thunderous fortes, further elevated the violin's status in the world of classical music. Decline and death. In the latter part of his career, Paganini's health continued to decline, and he was forced to limit his performances. His final years were spent in relative seclusion, as he focused on composing and teaching. Despite his declining health, Paganini continued to be revered by musicians and audiences alike. He died on May 27, 1840, at the age of 57 in Nice, France. The cause of death was likely complications related to his long-standing health issues, possibly a combination of Marfan syndrome and a weakened heart. Paganini's death marked the end of an era in violin playing, but his legacy endured. His funeral was attended by many prominent musicians and admirers, and his works continued to be performed and studied for generations after his passing. Legacy. Niccolo Paganini's influence on classical music, particularly the violin, is immeasurable. His technical innovations, bold compositional style, and unforgettable performances left a permanent mark on the music world. His caprices remain essential repertoire for every serious violinist, and his concertos continue to be staples of the violin canon. Beyond the music, Paganini's mythic status as the devil's violinist captured the imagination of composers, artists, and writers for generations. His life inspired numerous works of literature and music, including operas, novels, and orchestral pieces. Figures like Franz Liszt and Hector Berlioz, who were also virtuosos in their respective fields, looked to Paganini as a model for both their technical mastery and their charismatic stage presence. In addition to his musical legacy, Paganini also helped elevate the status of the violin itself. His performances showcased the violin's full range of expression and technical potential, and his contributions to violin technique have been studied and emulated by countless violinists since. Paganini's life was as dramatic and complex as his music. From his early struggles to his meteoric rise to fame, his personal health challenges, and his eventual decline, he embodied the archetype of the tortured genius. Yet, his music continues to speak to generations of musicians and listeners, transcending the mysteries of his life and allowing his extraordinary talent to shine through for centuries to come. Conclusion: Niccolo Paganini remains one of the most legendary figures in the history of classical music. His unparalleled violin technique, inventive compositions, and larger-than-life persona continue to inspire and captivate musicians and audiences around the world. Though his life was fraught with personal challenges and his health deteriorated long before his death, his legacy as one of the greatest violinists to ever live remains intact. Paganini's influence on both the violin and the world of music at large is undeniable, and his name will forever be linked to the highest levels of musical virtuosity. 400